Is Trump losing the bro vote? Support from Gen Z men may slip amid economic pain. I have never, listen, okay, you all know I'm a card-carrying misogynist, right? You know, I'm one of the good ones. That being said, never have I felt such overwhelming sympathy for women, or I guess never do I feel such overwhelming sympathy for women, than when I reflect on what it must be like to date as a young heterosexual woman. Holy shit. It's like, actually, it's like, oh God, like you're 22? God's punishment for being het, I suppose, but God, man, that's a little rough, huh?
Could the economic pain that Donald Trump is inflicting in service of tariffs lose him and Republicans a key voting bloc? There are already some signs it could be happening. Let me explain. A big reason why Donald Trump won the White House was support from young men of Generation Z, activated a little bit older than this kid.
There's Gavin McInnes, a neo-Nazi, founder of the Proud Boys, just casually there in the wall suit. Just, all right, just sort of an odd photo to choose for just a general state. It's like I don't think this 5-year-old who's been groomed into being dressed up like Trump is representative of the, all right, whatever.
Activated by Trump's machismo and political incorrectness, but also by his economic profile. They consider themselves high-risk hustlers.
Okay, I don't understand why they keep showing like actual 8-year-olds. Like these children are grooming victims. They've been groomed. They're being brought to political rallies. They don't understand anything. They're just kids. This isn't Gen Z. This is like Gen Alpha. I don't know why they're being shown.
That's how pollster John Della Volpe told it to Puck's Peter Hamby.
Why?
Quote, Gen Z men who are
those
more
the bro? Is this the bro? Is this a bro?
Told it to Puck's Peter Hamby.
Is this a bro? What is this? What's the choice of these? It's just because you're over 30. Oh, like this is like an 18-year-old. I'm just over 30, so they all look like babies to me. That makes sense.
Quote, Gen Z men who are more likely than their peers to bet on sports, invest in stocks, and dabble in crypto. Their financial mindset is shaped by the belief that playing it safe leads to economic stagnation.
We need to make all these things illegal.
But as both crypto and the stock market shudder and prices for things like eggs skyrocket, Trump is losing approval among these voters.
So, in other words, their moral system is the same. They just don't like that Trump is bad for their outcomes because they're too stupid to realize they're not part of the in crowd. They didn't realize that Donald Trump doesn't serve the interests of like a person with a net, annual income of $32,000 who makes like $1,000 once off a day trade and thinks that they're the, penny stockmaster or whatever. The Big Short.
Now, founding partner and host of Snapchat's Good Luck America, Peter Hamby. Peter, it is good to see you. It has been a long time.
Good to see you, Katie. Thank you.
Explain this. The Gen Z men, the assumption is that they're firmly behind Donald Trump. What's going on?
I think you actually defined that group pretty well. I think you and I both have been out on the road and talked to a lot of voters, all ages, races, genders. There's an assumption, though, maybe among Democrats, on the left, journalists perhaps, that all young men are red hat wearing.
I do think that a lot of this is the Democrats' fault. Young people were like overwhelmingly progressive for decades, and that all went away. And I think that went away because Democrats forgot that they needed to provide a message. Literally, like young men loved Bernie Sanders, and the Democrats made fun of them for it. The Bernie bro thing. The idea that like misogyny was a rampant issue from Bernie Sanders supporters, substantiated by nothing, mind you, literally nothing. You want to talk about misogyny? What about like all the older moderate Democrats who are like actual misogynists, like in the traditional sense, who would have voted for Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden or whatever else? We don't talk about that. We talk about like a couple of young guys who get too rowdy or something. No, yeah. Psyops, the way identity politics have been weaponized against actual progressives. Anyway, yeah, the Democrats just gave people nothing to believe in. And young young drifters, aimless people, young men, they need something to believe in.
Anti-woke UFC fans who like Trump because he tells it like it is. But as you said, that's part of it. I spent so much of last year out in the swing states talking to younger voters of all kinds. The economic insecurity angle is very important. This is a generation, no matter the gender, that came up during the pandemic. Their biggest fear—
Bernie bro was a term created and said in the left, Vosh. I thought the right did that and called them soy. No, that soy wasn't even a thing back then. It was made by centrist Democrats who wanted to malign progressives and accuse them of being racist or sexist or whatever. Completely with like in an unsubstantiated fashion. It was just like a weaponization of IDPOL against them. It was the Clinton people doing that.
Here is access to the economy. If you look at polls, younger people are more likely to say it's not just the cost of living, it's also jobs than older generations are. But John Del Vallape's polling is very smart on this. He's doing a monthly tracking poll. He's the Harvard youth pollster, kind of the gold standard. He basically found that there's a subset of young men. He sort of categorizes them this way. They're more likely to gamble, crypto, stock market, etc., because they don't see a path to wealth.
Gambling should be illegal. It really should. I'm such a hard line on gambling, man. Genuinely. All the crypto sports betting, it should just be illegal. It's not only personally destructive and incredibly exploitative, but it's also systematically destabilizing. It's morally caustic to the entire social fabric in a way that I think not even alcoholism touches.
Owning a house, owning a car, even in the way that previous generations did. And so they're more willing to take risks. And look, if you look at John's polling, Trump's approval rating among young men overall is pretty steady, Katie, but his approval rating on the economy has dropped 14 points between
Wow, so they still so they claim to have voted for him for economic reasons, but even though his support for the economy is rapidly plummeting, they still support him by the same margins. Kind of suggests they like him for reasons other than the economy, huh? So you're defining this group of young men based on their propensity for crypto, stock, gambling, whatever the you say that they're concerned about economic mobility and getting access to the economy, but for some reason, disapproving of Trump's handling of the economy doesn't seem to be shaking their approval of Trump. Makes you wonder if there's another reason they like him.
January and February. His approval rating on inflation has dropped 15 points among young men between January and February. And so if you look under the hood in polling at these economy numbers, that's true across all ages, but it can kind of be a canary in the coal mine for larger problems with his approval rating, which we see are going down. But I think the big picture here is young people, young men in particular, are giving Trump the benefit of the doubt overall. They like him. They want him to succeed. But the economy number is really bad because they're looking at their portfolios and their wallets.
Yeah, what is that benefit of the doubt?
To be clear, by the way, just because some people, maybe you didn't, it's sexism. The thing these young men care about is sexism. They are sexist. They are afraid of women and feel they're entitled to women. That's it. I'm not even saying this in like a soy feminist kind of like you need to check your toxic man. I'm just saying like they're pathetic. That's the reason why. It's it. It's immediately evident when you look at how any of them talk about women in any context. That's the reason why. A lot of them are racist too, but it's overwhelmingly the women.
Run out. Is there a bottom? Is there a number that where it gets too low and Donald Trump can't make a comeback from it?
If his overall approval ratings among young men start to drop, I think that will mirror larger approval ratings among all men, and they will start to go down. Donald Trump's approval rating is not great. I think the whole political universe right now is sort of frozen in this moment. They think Trump is all powerful and he will be here forever. Presidents come in very hot and popular, and they're popular until they're not. Joe Biden at this time was plus 15 net fave. We saw what happened with his approval.
Like I said, we need to break out of this cycle. We can't have another Reagan moment where Reagan destroyed the country and then for decades after the party still venerates him. We cannot have a bunch of people for the rest of their life, like people who are right now 20 years old, for the rest of their lives are like, yeah, Trump was super based, man. Shame the deep state held him back. This shit needs to be socially eradicated. It needs to be it needs to be unacceptable to believe these things. We can't just because Trump is gone, Trump will be dead soon because he's old. He's 80. You can't. Yeah, the pendulum needs to be destroyed. The constant tick tock, back and forth. It has to stop.
Rating later, and then go back to George Bush or Jimmy Carter or Barack Obama, whoever. And Donald Trump is starting out from a pretty low approval rating. So I think the bottom line, I talked to one Republican strategist about this who's working on some Senate and governor's races for next year. His take was just that people want to see competence from Donald Trump on the economy.
I like gambling, though. I don't have a problem with it. And I do understand some people grow an addiction to it. Listen, I'm sure drunk driving is really fun. And I bet you 99.9% of the time you drive slow enough and you make it back home safe, okay? I'm not making my political, legal, and moral determinations in this fashion, okay? We can't listen. You have to put your foot down, okay? You like gambling? Fine. You can gamble for corn chips, okay? You can go to the boys to the local community center and you can lay the cards down. You can play blackjack for who gets the Funyuns. It'll be fun. Funyuns are good.
Again, it's not just culture war stuff for young men. They want to see results. For a lot of these voters, this was their first election.
I think this is total bullshit. I think it's 100% culture war shit. And I think this guy is legitimizing the narrative that it's economic disadvantage that's fueling this fascist movement, when in reality, that's just the excuse they use. In reality, it's not. Yeah, it's sane washing. This is sane washing for the Gen Z men.
And they took a chance on Trump, or they, saw for the first time after the pandemic, like the cost of living wasn't bad, wasn't good, hard to find a house, hard to get a job, etc. He's going to be our guy, but he needs to show results. I'm not saying it has to happen right now, but if we get into, the summertime and, people's crypto wallets aren't great, I have a feeling Donald Trump's going to feel that in his polling too.
Oh, well, how encouraging. Don't worry, guys, don't worry. We might be able to avert the building of Auschwitz II if only the crypto wallets will go down. Is that what we're fighting for, really? Do you not think maybe there's like an underlying social problem if people are willing to accept the literal destruction of the country as long as their crypto portfolio goes up? Like, if people if that's the framework and justification that we're dealing with here, don't you think that might indicate something else about the character of these people?
Let me ask you about some of the other canaries in the coal mine here. And you talk about some of the bro podcasters, the Just Asking Question podcasters. And you also mentioned...
What's this guy's name again? I want to look him up.
Dave Portnoy of Barstool Sports. And that he's not such a... You can't paint him with an easy brush to say that he's just a Donald Trump supporter.
I bet you can. I know literally nothing about this guy. I bet you can. Everyone's like, bro, he's not just a regular conservative, okay? He's got like a wide range of diverse opinions. He's an idiosyncratic individual. And then you look at him and he's just like literally like the same as every other Trump supporter. They just can never own all of their positions. So they have to like dance around and only conditionally accept some of them. But then they'll like play devil's advocate for some others. But they always come back to supporting the conservative position. They'll never actually like walk back on the line.
Although he did vote for Donald Trump, and that he released this tweet, and this could mean something. Why is the release of the Epstein list always a bleep show, he says? What's the point of booting out illegals and criminals while somehow becoming a safe haven for the Tate brothers? Why is crypto in the toilet if Trump is crypto king? How far does Tesla stock have to crash before Elon goes back to work? Tell me about Portnoy's influence here.
I used Portnoy in my piece as a good example of, I think, a thing that, again, Democrats miss about the quote unquote bro vote, which I think is a pejorative. I agree with John Fetterman on that, actually. It only turns people off. But I listen to a few Barstool podcasts. Katie, I have 2 Washington Commanders Barstool T-shirts.
Peter Hamby.
He's not just a red hat wearing.
Jesus Christ. Hey, listen, I'm just here to impartially deliver my assessment of what young Gen Z guys who are into crypto are for. Look, I'm not a Barstool Sports fan. I mean, I've like watched his podcast. I have some of his shirts. I've sucked his dick a few times. But I'm just here to deliver like an impartial. Trust me, it's not fascism. We just want good stock returns, okay? Trust me, there's nothing morally corrosive about the idea that young men in overwhelming swaths are becoming Nazis because they want a better crypto coin portfolio. Trust me, it's just make sure the Democrats invest in crypto. That's all you need. Just make Democrats be more pro gambling in crypto, and then you've got it. There's nothing else to look at here.
Trump guy. Dave Portnoy is a role model to a lot of younger people. He's a millennial. He's not Gen Z. He's transparent. He built his company from nothing. He's funny. Yes, he doesn't like political correctness. Yes, he voted for Donald Trump. But he was also, he came out against the Dobbs decision. And so I used him as an example of, a lot of people sent me that very tweet.
What is it? You know what they call people who supported Hitler but only did so for the economic reasons? They call them Nazis. No, don't shoot. That Wehrmacht soldier didn't sign up because he wanted to do the Holocaust. He signed up to defend his homeland / defend the economy / to his family. Oh, sorry. Nazi's a Nazi. I'm sorry, man. The country is being looted and burned. It was one thing back in 2016. The stakes were a lot lower back then.
And said, oh my gosh, is Trump losing the bros? I mean, I think Dave Portnoy is a good example of a kind of younger male Trump voter that isn't full-blown culture war. They don't care about the Tate brothers. They don't care about the Epstein files. He
doesn't care about the Tate brothers because he was too old for them, I bet. If Dave Portnoy, or whatever the fuck his name is, was 10 years younger and had gotten into the same grift scene, he probably would care about them more. This is just like an aesthetic critique. not a meaningful one. Barstool founder reveals he was offered a job at Commerce Department 2 days ago. He's not just a regular Trump supporter. I mean, he was literally offered a job in the Commerce Department under the Trump administration. He was so much a Trump supporter that they literally, in a loyalist-obsessed administration, offered him a job. You should never listen to these motherfuckers when you ask them why they are the way they are. They'll respond with some gay pedophile shit like, you just had to leave the video games alone. Some guy whose main political problem is that American localizers add like shorts to the what would otherwise be animations of upskirts of 12-year-old girls in their favorite anime fighting game. And then when they're asked like, hey, why are you supporting the Holocaust because you wanted to look at little girl panties? And then he's like, you just had to leave the video games alone. You just had to leave the games alone. Why couldn't you just leave the games alone? All right. Okay. Jesus Christ.
They do care about money and making it in the world. And he's not Theo Vaughn. He's not Joe Rogan. He's not Clay Travis. He's just a guy that young people looked up to. He's adjacent to politics, but not of it. And so I thought that tweet was a good example of what we're talking about. Portnoy, and he said this out loud, is giving Trump the benefit of the doubt too. But he said this on Fox Business the other day. He wants to see his stocks go up.
If you are conditionally a fascist, as long as your stocks are going up, you're still a fascist. I don't know what to say. You should be morally repulsed by what Trump is and what he's doing. Even if the economy was doing great, it wouldn't change the fact that Donald Trump is making enemies of our allies, allies of our enemies, eroding civil rights, furthering and perpetuating harm against any number of minority communities, destroying the Constitution, breaking the judiciary. Like, all of these things are still happening. If you don't have a moral problem with any of that and you're just in it for the stocks, then that, like, you don't have any moral qualms. You just want your stocks to go up, which means that you're still a supporter of the administration.
And his wallet fatter. And I think a lot of young men would probably agree with that.
That's evil.
I also think one thing to watch is, as you mentioned, he wasn't a fan of the overturning of Roe v. Wade. There is an inherent tension there because a lot of, that category of voters, not necessarily.
You're honestly worse than fascist at that point, IMO? Honestly, kind of, yeah. In a way, like, the absence of a position but supporting them anyway actually makes you kind of more morally abhorrent because you're not even buying in on the propaganda that deludes a lot of the authentic fascists into, like, you can't even go with the whole, like, I genuinely thought my country was under attack by Tren de Aragua bit. You're standing from the sidelines acknowledging that the president that you voted for is destroying the country, and you're like, well, my portfolio went up. In a way, it's more evil. It's evil in a very banal way.
Necessarily the most culturally conservative voters.
Yep.
All right.
Peter that shows up in polling, Katie. I mean, young Gen Z men, like, they believe in climate change. They don't care as much about the abortion wars that older generations do. They do care about practical issues and making it in the world.
Yeah, and not being politically correct. You could add that to it. Peter Hamby, thank you very much for...
What a weird ending. I feel like she doesn't like him. Like, she doesn't like this angle necessarily. It is difficult to be a left-leaning, or at least left-of-center woman. I'm assuming I don't know anything about her. I assume it's at MSNBC. I'm sure she's at least a liberal. And not recognize that misogyny is like the thing driving so much of this. But, maybe I'm just reading too much into it. Maybe I'm stupid and fat and dumb and gay. I'm at least one of those things.
For joining us. Please do come back.
What do we got? What are we revealing about me today? Oh, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Bunch of news. And Mandalore Gaming. Great channel. Great channel.